Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today we're talking Sex and the City, the very first movie. And this is part 4 of, we're having Michael Patrick King, you know my name for him. He's doing the commentary track. So I'm doing commentary on his commentary track because I sure do have a lot to say about, well, the crazy stuff he says. But if this is your first time being here, welcome. You'll find that he talks over the movie, so it's kind of annoying, but that's just how it is. I pause it a lot to give my thoughts, so that's just how it works. So with this being part 4, we are at the part where they just, she hit big with the flowers at the wedding. They end up going to Mexico, carrying the girls, and Carrie has just kind of started coming out of her room a little bit, and starting to see Mexico and talk to everybody. So that's where we're picking up with this one. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. If you like what we're doing, do check out Patreon because we're covering the original Sex and the City over there, doing my deep dives, telling behind the scenes information, and just having fun talking about all the original episodes back when it was good. So check that out if that's something you're interested in. Let's get into Sex and the City. Michael Patrick Dickhead.
It was important for me to Carrie to start referencing what happened.
Okay, I'm already annoyed. I had to pause it. So you know how fast I talk because, hello, I have tons to say. Michael Patrick Dickhead has this cadence that just really irks me. I've actually had a lot of funny comments from you guys saying you have a reaction to his voice and the way he speaks. I'm right there with you. I feel the exact same way. He just irks me.
In my first draft, she had much more awareness that she was culpable in Mexico.
I put a bird on my head.
Is that what that was?
Yeah,
I thought it was feathers.
it was a bird.
It was beautiful.
And you know, now that I've seen the movie, you don't really know it's a bird. A lot of people in the Miranda camp. Was it feathers? Is it a bird?
I actually thought it was a feather too. I got a lot of corrections in my comments saying, nope, it's a bird. And one of you did some research and believed that it was once an alive bird. Yikes.
Anyway, I thought earlier that Carrie should have more of a understanding of how she was responsible for what happened in Mexico. And then
That just doesn't jive with the character of Carrie. She never thinks she's responsible for anything.
I thought, no, it's too soon. This is the blame scene. And when I got to the idea that it was the blame scene, that was important. There's also something I cut out of here that
Okay, this is the part of the episode where I call wade through the bullshit. Michael Patrick Dickhead is so full of himself. Every single episode, several things happen. I actually made a bingo board about this before. He has to kiss Sarah Jessica Parker's ass. He has to talk about how amazing Carrie is and how he sees himself as a Carrie. And he has to give himself credit for his writing. He has to give himself credit for approval of wardrobe. And here he's giving himself credit for the way he cut this all together.
had in the scene is that Miranda admitted that Steve had a 9.5-inch dick. And Carrie says kind of balances off the one ball.
Wait, what? 9.5 inches? Wait, what? Hello, Steve. Oh yeah, that's the other Michael Patrick King thing I forgot about. Every episode he's got to talk about things like cream pie. Yes, he did talk about that in a former episode. He talks about things like thrust. He talks about dirty stuff with Brady. Just, ugh, it's the ick.
And I thought, I don't know. It feels more like we need to just stay on the story here. But for those of you at home, for just a brief moment, Steve had a 9.5-inch dick.
I feel like Miranda would have been nicer to him if he'd had a 9.5-inch dick.
And Samantha said, you can't forgive a guy with a 9.5-inch dick. If you don't, one other woman will.
Is it all about the other person? Is that love?
No, that's marriage.
You know, the idea that Samantha is the one who's suddenly servicing a man, and not in the sexual way, servicing everything from calling him on phones to get him cars, to get him around airports, was an interesting journey for me to write for her.
Can we just marinate in that sentence for a minute? It was an interesting journey for me to write for her. Wow.
You know, she's also somebody who's always been about, look at me, I'm proud of what I became. And suddenly she made somebody else something, and she feels a little weird about it. And it's an interesting debate.
Yeah, it's all so hot.
More tongue. More tongue.
See? Add more tongue to the list of things I never want to hear Michael Patrick Dickhead say.
You know, I had a version of this happen to me in Mexico. This version of this happened to me, I'll admit it, so I know it's based in reality.
Ugh, you guys, he's talking about the Charlotte opening her mouth in the shower. I'm sorry, but Charlotte was acting like such a prissy bitch on this trip. I felt like it was so rude how she treated, just all of it. Just would only eat prepackaged pudding, this beautiful spread in front of her, and she's being such a snooty bitch about it.
Not quite this comic a reality, but it's definitely based on a reality. So, you know, the stomach sounds are big because I wanted the audience to know, yeah, we're going to go for this. So enjoy it. Here it comes.
This was the start of the bodily fluid equals funny thing that they definitely carried on to, and just like that. And by funny, I mean, we don't think it's funny, but he sure as hell does.
It's going to be big. And, you know, this is another event. Steve cheats on Miranda. Miranda tells Big. Big doesn't come to the wedding. It affects each other. Charlotte's public disaster is the thing that's needed to move Carrie to the next level of laughing. You gotta love Kristen Davis for this. And I was actually standing off camera making pooey noises.
Of course you were. That sounds right. Also, in case you missed the other episode where I talk about he's also the one standing off camera saying "eat me" when Miranda was being harassed by that sandwich. That was Michael Patrick King's voice.
To make them laugh. And so on their side, and so when it was time for Kristen's close-up, she said, well, keep doing it. But literally, this is them laughing. And Sarah Jessica said, it was the end of the day, we were about to do this scene, and she goes, we're about to have to laugh a lot. Wouldn't hurt if those margaritas were real. And I said, really? She said, yeah, mix them up.
So from here, he plays a scene that has music, so I can't play it. But I'm not even kidding you guys. He talks about how much the actresses trust him. And again, he just keeps saying, they trust me. They trust me. And I'm thinking, yeah, dickhead, we trust you not to hand us this pile of shit with it just like that. But you did.
You know, the fun for me of seeing her leave that apartment earlier, empty, was knowing that later in the movie, it was going to be way too full. This, to me, is the single gal horror movie right now. This is really like Jason and Friday the 13th. It's jumping out. The wedding gifts, the gown, the body. This is brutal. And I set it up because I wanted her to have an assistant. So I had to have a reason. Because I felt that Carrie would feel that the girlfriends had done enough to help her get married, that they weren't going to help her get unmarried. Even though they would offer, she wouldn't ask. I also wanted to bring in a 20-something woman because I think what's interesting is a 20-something's idea of love directly in contrast to a 40-something's reality of love gone wrong.
Last night, but I type like a motherfucker.
I have a degree in finance from Princeton, and for the last 2 years, I've been assistant to a...
I wanted to bring in an African-American character if I was going to bring in somebody new, because everywhere I went in the world, when African-American women would talk to me, they would always love the show, but they'd always say, where are the sisters? And I thought, well, if I'm bringing in somebody new, it's got to be a sister.
That's right, Louise from St. Louis.
Oh my God, he is so cringe. I just can't. Again, they overcorrected with him just like that. Yikes.
But who would be the sister? Jennifer Hudson.
Yes, that's correct.
Oscar winner?
I can barely text.
Delicious.
Oh, he's so creepy with the delicious thing. I do love Jennifer Hudson in this role. I actually think she does a great job. I just think he's so creepy in the way he's describing it all.
To me, she looks like orange sherbet in this scene. She's just beautiful. And I mean, the fact that I got her to play Louise, which is a significant but beautifully small part, was amazing. She read it. She loved it. I needed a girl who looked like somebody from St. Louis. I didn't want to bring in just another, Barbie doll. I wanted the character to be authentic. It was important to me that Louise be real.
It's time for word salad, where he says all this nonsense that doesn't actually mean anything.
This is another part of New York that I wanted to make sure we shot. There's Lynn Cohen as Magda. Magda's an amazing grounding force for Miranda. Look at her face. The nonsense of what Miranda's doing, throwing it all away just because her feelings are hurt, maybe. You know, New York is always changing. And it's interesting that as Miranda changes, she needs to get a new environment. And because she needs to be near the Brooklyn Bridge, because that's real, this is, you know, as New York Magazine says, the new Manhattan.
Coming or going? Going. Oh boy.
You know, one of the things I try to do as a writer is let the audience believe that this is all real. So it was important for me to show Miranda making her decision of seeing that this apartment is a place where she could live with Brady and it is okay. And also just to continually color out who left, which is like these NYU kids with the beer bottles and stuff, so that her decision is all more grounded in reality. And plus it's just it's a visual dimension to the whole Lower East Side apartment.
I'm interested in the apartment upstairs. Yeah.
That is Elizabeth Taylor, of course, Charlotte's dog. One of the things that somebody said to me when they got on the set, she said, all the girls look good, but Elizabeth Taylor is really aged. She did get a little old, I must say. Maybe she was lying about her age during the series, but Elizabeth Taylor definitely looked older in the movie.
You know that this is just a fairy tale, right, sweetheart? And things don't always happen like
I love this scene because I like the idea of Carrie's sort of ruthless trying to deconstruct fairy tales for this little girl to save her.
To me, it read as Carrie being an asshole, you know, normal Carrie, because she can't even let this little girl enjoy her fairy tale. She has to ruin that too.
But you can't. The tide's too big, and you have to believe in something.
Thanks for watching Lily while I went to the doctor. Oh, sure. Everything okay? Mm-hmm.
In view of giving people what they want, I gave Charlotte everything she ever wanted.
People always say that.
I always point out how he likes to kiss his own ass, but this might be like the ultimate him kissing his own ass. I worked really hard. They all depend on me. He's just so full of himself.
I worked really hard and talked to a lot of women who had adopted and then got pregnant. And there's really no rhyme or reason. It happens to some people and it doesn't happen to others. And it's a gift or a sadness if it doesn't happen to you.
I guess in certain houses,
But as Carrie says,
tales do come true.
and it is a movie, it is a fantasy. You know, when you have 4 storylines, you have to be very judicious about how you show them because there's not a lot of time. And in this very thinly sliced scene, I wanted to show that Smith is very aware of everything that she's going through, as well as what he's going through. You know, an equal part of relationships is always about, you know, work taking over the dynamics sometimes.
I have no real connection to our life.
People's expectations, people's realities, and in Steve and Miranda and Charlotte and Harry and Smith and Samantha, I have an opportunity to show just another version of a couple trying to move forward together.
Will never be able to talk your way out of or not convince me that they didn't just give Samantha the shittiest of the shitty storylines. Case in point, second movie.
Jason Lewis is fantastic. A delight.
Nothing about Kim Cattrall, huh? Won't pay her any compliments. One of you guys very astutely pointed out in an earlier episode of this, he only compliments his own writing with her. He'll never compliment her directly.
There's a couple of reasons that I had to make cuts in this area of the movie. Mostly it was just about keeping the audience's pace up. So I hated cutting this scene because, first of all, it's visually so compelling. You see Malibu, and then you cut to New York and you see the contrast of Carrie and Samantha's lives. I also liked the scene when I wrote it was because it's Samantha trying to figure out how to be in a couple again, or for the first time. The movie moves along fine without it, but the reason I held on to it for so long was because the visual impact of Sarah Jessica's look right there. The lighting is interesting. It was right before sunset. Press still published this, so I thought it was something that was special.
Hey, when are we gonna get to the...
Louise has a degree in computer science, so there's a very slight... You can look at this back if you want. The old web page versus the web page she creates at the end. It's very interesting.
Okay.
We also own carriebradshaw.com and john@jjp.com. Very important. Somebody owned Carrie Bradshaw. Can you imagine? We had to buy it back. Some smart man got it.
Damn. I wish I had thought of that.
It was important to me to keep Big alive. but not in the movie and present,
Isn't there some
because, Carrie's thinking about him.
cyberspace
The idea being
those so that I never
that at a
hear
certain age,
from him ever again?
you understand the mistakes you made.
Do that, please?
Do you really need to keep talking about them? So she rarely talks to her girlfriends about this after Mexico. Except to Louise. This is the moment where Louise lets you know she didn't delete it. Watch what Jennifer does. Maybe not.
I can't believe you're even dressing up.
All the parents in Brady's school dress up. It's fun. Fun thought up by a group of non-working mothers with nothing else to do all day. All right, what have they got? Witch?
I told Pat I wanted
And
Carrie
sexy kitten.
and Miranda to be dark.
That's it. The only two choices.
And I
were
love the
women.
fact that they're
And sexy
basically
Oh, you
both
just said a mouthful.
kind of dressed like witches.
Maybe I should wear this.
They're
and the
kind of
person
like
go as myself.
their own nightmare of what could happen
I
to
gotta
them in
email
New
him
York.
big.
It's talking about the scene where Miranda quite literally has a witch's hat on because she's shopping for a Halloween costume. But yeah, Carrie is very much dressed like a witch here. It actually looks like she's doing her hocus pocus role.
Then
I love
send an
Miranda
email,
hearing and talking about Steve carrying a broom,
and in the subject box,
complaining, carrying a witch broom and being a witch.
I'm sorry.
Steve is all.
The interesting thing about this scene to me is they're not at Barney's.
I'm sorry, flowers. I'm sorry, cards. How about don't do anything to be I'm sorry for?
Well, maybe he's sorry.
Well, maybe so is Big.
Point taken.
The seasons in the movie were important to me because I wanted to find a way to show a passage of time. And when we were doing the series, I always had an idea that it would be great to show these holidays and basically which holiday is worse to be alone in.
Can't believe
And I thought, well, now's the chance to do it. If the movie's going to span a year, I can do the holidays that I wouldn't have done in the series.
I'm going over every detail of that last week in my head.
It's important that Miranda start to tell her here
About that last
because it's working on Miranda through the whole movie, what she said, but she didn't tell her.
And then I saw it. The only thing scary enough to scare me after what I'd been through.
These photographs that you're seeing here were actually taken during production of the filming of the Vogue shoot, which was amazing that we got the photographs at the same exact moment we were filming them. These are Patrick DeMarche's photography,
this issue went to press.
shot with John Thomas's lighting.
Every time I hear John Thomas, I think of Trey.
So the idea that Carrie still can't see, but she has to maybe push stuff. She's starting to get a little bit of better vision on what happened. I asked Pat to do black for her because I knew we were shooting her against a black wall. I wanted it to look dark and very, very urban.
I figured it was one less Vogue in New York.
I thought that the antidote to Carrie's bad moment would be Charlotte showing up as the Calvary. I like the strong Charlotte who's just going to move on through, and I also love Kristen's performance in this. Plus the idea of seeing Lily and Carrie with
Okay, see what I mean? He's saying, I love Kristen's performance here. He so often says, I love Sarah Jessica's performance here. He'll even say, I love Cynthia and how she did this, blah, blah, blah. I'm still waiting for the I love Kim Cattrall. Okay, so Dickhead rambles on. Not much going on. He starts to play music, so I can't play that part either. But now we're up to where Samantha is looking under her big hat, checking out the hot neighbor. She ends up getting the dog. Remember that humps thing. So, of course, he's got to talk about that.
and we were blessed to have a dog that would hump on cue. What we found out during the shoot was she humps better in the morning.
I'm telling you, every single thing this man says really creeps me out.
So we would sometimes have to do the dog humping coverage before Kim Cattrall, and Kim would say, yeah, I get it. I know who's the star of the scene. The dog humping.
And because
So this is to show basically that Samantha has everything and still needs things because she can't really do the things she wants to do because she doesn't want to hurt Smith the way Steve hurt Miranda.
What would happen if these were to
There's your shoe moment. So Louise has packed that away and Carrie accidentally opens it.
No. No, it's too beautiful. I'll just, bury it.
Of course, that is an amazing wig on Sarah Jessica, and it was quite a production demand. When the wig was actually on the call sheet, we would know the wig was coming, which meant more time in a different way for the wig. Dark Carrie and lighter Carrie. I just think it's so great. It's interesting that Carrie doesn't really cry much.
Maybe you're only allotted a certain amount of tears per man, and I use mine up.
Yeah, I know how.
I think it's one of the things Sarah Jessica told me that she liked about the part. The way it was written. That she didn't really act out much. She just felt it inside.
There were
P.S. He writes her part. So this is his way of giving himself a compliment while talking about Sarah Jessica Parker.
2 broken hearts in my walk-in.
So here's the reason I brought Louise into the movie, really. So that Carrie could sit and remember the idea of love.
Sure, no, I thought Will.
And also that love goes on. You know, that you don't have to be Carrie Bradshaw to get your heart broken in half by Mr. Big. You can be a girl in St. Louis who's got a guy named Will. The hurt's just as profound. Anything that happens to you is just as profound. The fun thing about the movie is you get to see it happen to Carrie, and you relate to Carrie because you've been with her for years. We designed this keychain specifically.
So this was exactly my beef with And Just Like That. And forgive me for keep bringing it up, but he acknowledges here these are women that we've been with for years, characters, whatever. And yet he made him wholly unrecognizable in Just Like That. And totally, it just didn't make any sense. None of it. Like they acted like they all had head transplants. And then he's wondering why everybody's complaining about how bad it sucked, and obviously can't even acknowledge that. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what kind of nonsense they hand us for part 2. I'm sure it's going to be even worse.
The idea that Louise still has belief in love, and Carrie sits there and sort of has no belief but doesn't say anything.
I remember that.
Carrie has to make everything about Carrie always. So I don't think she just wouldn't say anything. All I can think of is, remember when Charlotte got engaged? Paper covers rock.
We're the first people to ever shoot in this. On the walls behind them, there are murals that have been there since the 40s that were designed by the artist who did the Madeline Children books. He didn't have his rent, and so they asked him to paint the walls. And they're scenes of New York through all the seasons.
All right, then.
I love the chemistry between Jennifer and Sarah Jessica, just easy and breezy.
30s are to learn the lessons. Your 40s are to pay for the drinks.
Well, in that case, I'll take another one.
It's all about the desk. If I find
One of the fun things about writing the movie and having it span a year for me was that there were makeovers involved. Carrie went dark. And one of the other bonuses for me was that we were going to do a makeover on her apartment, which is kind of untraditional. You take Carrie's apartment and it's sort of a symbol of a certain time. And then I thought, well, now what would she do?
Another recycled storyline, because we often see her. There's actually a couple times in the series where she's painting her kitchen or something. Remember the eggshell thing? But then it was a storyline with Aiden, and then it became she had another change with And Just Like That with that stupid wallpaper.
And I think once Carrie decides that, well, I guess I'm going to be alone, she decides to maybe make her life better by changing her environment.
There's nothing to be concerned about. Well, did
Charlotte had a very tumultuous life before Harry. A lot of her marriage ideas exploded in front of her face, and she finally wound up going with someone who she loved rather than the idea of who she thought she should love.
I have everything I ever wanted. I am so happy that I'm terrified.
That line is so little and big to me because I wanted Charlotte to be the one who's content and happy. And then I think these girls are so connected. If something bad happened to one of them, the others would be worried.
shit your pants this year? Maybe you're done.
So all through the whole movie, basically, it's how they go in and out of dark and light and they pull each other along. And shit your pants this year, maybe you're done is one of my favorite lines. And Charlotte was a big runner on the series, so all of a sudden she's running again. She always ran. And this scene, of course, was used to show, first of all, bravery can be in little tiny steps. You accomplish your fears in little tiny steps every day. They're all in Burberry jackets, I might add, which I love. And then it also moves us along seasonally. Chanel earmuffs, by the way. If you're going to have earmuffs, they should be from Chanel. Look at that, Central Park in the snow. So there's Carrie's apartment. It's East 73rd. There it's official. There it is. You see it, even though it's actually filmed in the Village on Perry Street. And if you ever doubt it, just walk down the street and look for hundreds of women sitting on a stoop. That's it.
Okay.
Jennifer's hair changes throughout the movie. And I actually was curious as to how often an African-American girl changes her hair. So I went to a hair salon where I knew that a lot of African-American girls work. And I said, how often do you change your hair? They go, a lot. So Jennifer and her hair team basically decided that Jennifer would have 3 looks, which would signify a year or 6 months. 6 months since she comes in halfway through it.
Okay, he's obnoxious. I can't handle him anymore. I'm going to end it here. Oh, God. Can you imagine? I want to trade paychecks with this guy. I want to get paid an obscene amount of money to, I don't know, just go through life in an egotistical bubble and drink my own Kool-Aid. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a fabulous day. And yeah, I'll come back with the next part soon if I don't jump out my window first. Thank you guys for everything. Take care. Bye-bye.